Hello, my mamas, and welcome to our postpartum experience. I am very excited to be here and very excited to have you here learning and healing our bodies so we can safely return to strength training, feel good about ourselves, and be the empowered woman and mother that we want to be. I do have my notes for reference just over here, so occasionally you see me looking to the side. Today, we're going to be going through the postpartum foundations, so really laying those solid foundations to help you heal and recover in these early stages or the beginning stages of your postpartum journey. But what we're also doing by creating these solid foundations and laying these foundations is setting ourselves up for our future, whether that be in our strength training, in our life, or if we're looking at having some more children. We want our body to be strong and functional for all of those reasons. Foundations, what are they? For me, it really is about how we breathe, the connection and activation we have to our pelvic floor, as well as our core. So our core canister, which is our diaphragm, which sits at the top, our pelvic floor, which sits down the bottom, our transverse abdominis, or abbreviated as TVA, which is a big corset muscle, which wraps around from my back, from your back, all the way to the front, down to our pelvic bone, all the way up to our ribs. And we also have our multifidus, which is a deep spine stabilizing muscle. So making sure that these are functioning and working correctly is laying those foundations, which are really important for, like I said, when our healing and recovery now, but also when we are thinking about our future and what we want to do and achieve with our bodies. A lot of it is, for me, prevention, avoiding dysfunction as we return to strength training too. That's a big thing that I preach and I talk about, and something that's really important to me because it did happen to me after my second child about a year down the track when I was lifting heavy again. I felt these things happening, but I guess I just didn't want them to be true. So I kind of kept pushing through something that I should have. And I was doing my heavier lifts, not using my core properly, not using my belt properly, pushing a lot of my pressure downwards onto my pelvic floor. I was having a heavy feeling after my sessions, which I kind of just ignored because I didn't want to deal with it, to be honest. I knew what it was. And then I weed myself when I was doing a heavy lift, and I'm like, oh, that's enough for me. And that's kind of where this program started and where it was born, because I realized that I had to do a lot of core retraining, which is the Stronger Core Pelvic Floor program. And from that, we've created this postpartum program, which is very exciting. So enough of me rattling on. Today, we're going to go through our breathing, the importance of that. We're also going to talk about how to find pelvis neutral in our supine position, which you'll also use as your programming progresses when we go from laying to seated to standing. We're going to go through pelvic floor activation, and we're going to try and isolate 3 different parts of our pelvic floor. We'll go into a little bit more depth about that as well. We're going to go into our TA activation, bringing that all together to create the connection breath. And we're going to do the connection breath in a couple of different positions, and I'll explain why. We are also going to go into our core pelvic floor session as well as an abdominal session. So the equipment that you will need today is ideally a Pilates ball. Oops, sometimes my screen's going to do that. My camera's going to do that. Ideally a Pilates ball. Now, if you don't have a Pilates ball, if you have a soft little kiddies ball, they're very similar. Or you can use a foam roller, or even a rolled up towel. So this is just a bath towel that I've rolled up, which is going to be able to provide something for me to squish against. Pop those to the side. All right, let's start off with our breathing. And why is our breathing so important? So our breathing is important because it affects our pelvic floor. Now, the way that we want to breathe is we want to breathe in using what you might hear as 360 breathing. So our rib cage expands out in all directions. What that means is we are using our diaphragm as we breathe in. Our diaphragm pulls down, which is how we get the oxygen into our lungs. And as our diaphragm goes down, we create an increase of pressure in our abdominal cavity, and our pelvic floor naturally responds to that pressure. So as we breathe in, diaphragm comes down, pressure increases, pelvic floor will lengthen. And as we breathe out, diaphragm lifts, abdominal pressure decreases, pelvic floor will lift. So our pelvic floor will have this natural rhythm with our breathing of lengthening and contracting. So having that natural rhythm is really important for our recovery and avoiding dysfunction. So incontinence, pain with sex, hip, pelvic pain, even prolapse symptoms and that sort of thing. So it really does start with our breath. Now, some of the incorrect ways of breathing that I do commonly see in women is a lot of upper chest breathing. So what that will look like is, as I breathe in, you can really see that my upper chest is rising. What this is going to do is hit our flight and fight response. So our sympathetic nervous system is going to push us in that flight and fight response, which will kind of naturally contract our pelvic floor. So just being in that stress state, our pelvic floor responds by tightening up like our traps do as a protective mechanism. And because we're constantly breathing up here, we're not getting the opportunity to naturally lengthen and contract the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is constantly going to sit in this higher position as we're breathing up here. Another common breathing error that I see is called belly breathing. So belly breathing it's kind of a term that people use, which I think is incorrect. I think the term we should be using is deep breathing rather than belly breathing. I understand the reason why they use that term, because as we breathe into our rib cage, our belly will naturally slightly lift. A belly breather, in this case, what they'll do is breathe into and push their belly out. So what this is going to do is put pressure on our abdominal wall, which can delay our diastasis healing or any abdominal separation healing. And if we're breathing into our abdominal wall, the chances are that we're also breathing down into our pelvic floor. So we're putting increased pressure through here, which postpartum is already thinned and weaker. And we're also putting pressure down to our pelvic floor, which is also a little bit weaker and stretched as well from pregnancy and from birth. So they're two of the most common breathing errors that I see. So how do we breathe properly? So what we're going to do is lay on our back in a supine position. So if you are in those early postpartum stages and we are dealing with a little bit of abdominal separation, make sure that we're using the side lying technique. So we're going to come down onto our elbow, lay down on our side, and then we're going to roll over. So we just kind of want to avoid any unnecessary crunching at this stage, which can put a little bit of that extra pressure in through that midline. So when we're in this supine position, we do want to find that pelvis neutral position. So what that means is the pelvis isn't too tucked under and I'm not pressing my back down on to the mat, and that the pelvis isn't too tilted forward and I have a big gap under my back here. So we just want a nice neutral pelvis position. And, I'll kind of just adjust my butt. We can put our hands on our lower core, just inside our hip bones. And if our fingertips are pointed down, we have too much of an arch. And if our fingertips are tilted towards us, we're too flat. So we just want to get in a position where our fingertips are nice and even. And for me, there is a little bit of a gap under here. What that's going to allow me to do is really activate my TA and my multifidus correctly as well. So remembering our TA wraps around our entire back, and our multifidus is a deep core stabilizing muscle. If my pelvis is too tilted forward and I'm kind of pushing my back down, I can feel instantly that I'm kind of pushing a lot of into here and using a lot of my abdominals. My cat just did a big spoozy. You okay, Picky? Children and animals, don't they say? So when my pelvis is too tucked under, I can feel my rectus and my six-pack muscles really trying to do a lot of work here, which again is something very common in my postpartum mamas when we have weaker deep core. So pelvis neutral position is really important. So when we visualize our breathing, I want you to envision our rib cage expanding out in all directions, or we can think about an umbrella. So as we breathe out, the umbrella closes. As we breathe in, it expands. I'm going to pop my hands around my ribs, thumbs on the back of my rib cage, fingertips around to the front, so I can really feel what's going on. So we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. Feel that rib cage expanding in all directions. And breathe out. And I want to take note of what you are feeling. Are you feeling that breath really travel up into that upper chest, which should look more like that? So you really see my chest is lifting, everything is coming up here. Or are we breathing into that belly, really pushing that belly out? Going to breathe in through our nose. Expand our ribs. The overflow will go into our belly, so you will feel a slight rise in your belly as well. We're going to do 8 more breaths here. Really focusing on that rib cage expanding. Another really good cue that I like to use is focus on sending the breath to the back of your rib cage. We can be really tight in through that thoracic, which can affect our mobility in our back and then how we breathe, which is why thoracic mobility is a really big part of your postpartum program. In, out. Got 5 more breaths here. Really breathing in to the side of the ribs there and into the back of the rib cage. Feeling that diaphragm move down. And depending on how connected you are with your pelvic floor, you may even feel your pelvic floor relax a little bit as we breathe in and out. Let's go for 3 more reps here. Breathing in and breathing out. 1 more. Breathing in and breathing out. Now you can stay in this supine position and keep practicing your deep breaths. So I found that I really had the opportunity to relax then as well, which is not something that we often get to do as mums. We're running around, we're really busy, which again can heighten our nervous system. So our deep breathing really hits the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, which is connected to our nervous system and will help relax you. So that's why that deep breathing is also really important, because it's going to bring you into that calmer state, which is important for our mental health, but as well as our pelvic health. Let's go into some pelvic floor activations next. So the pelvic floor is multiple muscle groups. So we have, I like to kind of simplify it into 2 kind of layers. So we have the superficial pelvic floor, which are the sphincters, which will kind of close off. And then we have our deep pelvic floor muscles, which help support and lift off. So lift up. So these sphincter muscles, your urethra, your vagina, and your rectum. So where you pee from, your vagina hole and your bum hole. They all squeeze, so they stop our poo, our wee, and our vagina, keep our vagina muscle walls really nice and strong, functioning, but strong as well. And then this kind of hammock muscles, the deep core muscles, the deep pelvic floor muscles, all our organs, our pelvic organs kind of nest in there. So we want that to be nice and strong and functioning to be able to hold everything up. So when we think about our pelvic floor, we think about closing and we think about lifting up as well. We can also really isolate all different parts of our pelvic floor as well, which is something we do really focus on in the first 6 weeks program. What we're going to see if we can isolate today is the back of our pelvis, so towards our bum hole. We're going to see if we can isolate our urethra, or where we pee from, and we're going to see if we can isolate our vagina as well. We're going to focus on contracting each separate one, and then we're going to kind of bring it all together and lift up as well. So it can be a little bit challenging if you don't have a very strong connection to your pelvic floor, but it is really important to be able to isolate and practice isolation of each of these muscles, as well as bringing it all together, so we can make sure that our pelvic floor muscles are all firing together to provide the best support for us. So what we can do is, if you're already on your back, you can stay there. We're going to come into that supine position again, using that side lying technique if I need to. We're going to pop our feet flat on the floor, have that nice bend, and find that pelvis neutral position. So I really want you to focus on relaxing your entire body here. Now, as we breathe in, we're going to use our breath. So we're kind of adding each element on to help form the connection breath. So we're going to breathe in. And this time I really want you to focus on your pelvic floor. And I want you to feel it relax. So we have our pubic bones on each side, our sit bones on each side. We have our pubic bone at the front, and we have our tailbone at the back. So when we breathe in, I really want you to think about all those 4 points in this diamond kind of falling apart. So you shouldn't be pushing down or bearing down into your pelvic floor, but we should be able to lengthen and release, which is just as important as being able to contract the pelvic floor, because we want the pelvic floor to work in that full range for optimal function. Breathing in, focus on releasing that pelvic floor. And as we breathe out, I just want you to relax. The pelvic floor will kind of naturally, or ideally naturally, spring back up slightly. Breathing in, just release that pelvic floor. We can use the elevator analogy as well. So a resting pelvic floor would be on the ground level. As we breathe in, the pelvic floor shifts down to the basement. As we breathe out, it kind of really just comes up to that ground level, maybe a little bit into the first level. Good, so what we're going to do here is try and isolate the back of our pelvic floor. So if you think about your bum hole, what I want you to do is squeeze just your bum hole. So we're going to breathe in, release, relax the pelvic floor, goes down into the basement. As we breathe out, I want you to focus on just activating the rear. Just focus on squeezing that bum hole closed. We're not going to worry about the lift so much at the moment, just the squeeze and release. So we're just going to do 2 more reps, 3 seconds hold, breathing in, release, relax. As we breathe out, squeeze that bum hole, hold it, hold it, hold it. Release. Breathing in. Really make sure we're releasing and relax. The pelvic floor goes down into the basement. And as we breathe out, tighten that anus. 3, 2, 1, and release. Well done. So now we're going to focus on our urethra, so our anterior or the front of our pelvic floor. So this is where we pee from. So it's important to have good control of the front of our pelvic floor. Make sure it's not too tight or too weak, because that can cause incontinence. Again, it's just about nice balance and even tone of your pelvic floor. So here, we're going to take a breath in, really make sure that pelvic floor releases. And a good cue is to think about like a clitoral nod. So if you think about your clitoris, you just kind of want to nod that down, or you can focus on stopping a stream of urine. So let's just take that breath in again for rep 1. We're going to breathe in, making sure that our rib cage expands. And we're going to breathe out and focus on nodding our clitoris or stopping a flow of urine. 2, 1, and release. And again, depending on what your connection is like, I felt a slight activation of my TA, which is normal. We just don't want to be using our core to try and get a pelvic floor activation. We also want to make sure we're not clenching our glutes, so our bum and our core is relaxed. Rep 2, we're going to breathe in, release that pelvic floor, and as we breathe out, think about that clitoris nodding or stopping that flow of urine. 3, 2, 1, and release. Making sure that we're not tensing in through the abs, we're really just focusing on isolating that pelvic floor. We have one more rep here. Let's breathe in, using the rib cage, relaxing the pelvic floor. As we breathe out, clitoral nod, stopping the flow of urine for 3, 2, 1, and release. Well done. So now we're going to focus on our vagina. 3 reps, 3 seconds hold. So our vagina, if we think about whether it be a penis, a sex toy, gone to your pelvic health physio when they're doing an internal assessment. Another good cue is you sucking a milkshake up or holding onto a blueberry. So our vaginal canal, what we're going to be doing is focusing on just getting a contraction. We're not focusing on that lift at this stage, but just squeezing whatever you have in your vagina, your vaginal canal. We're going to take a breath in, release, relax. And as we breathe out, focus on that vagina coming together and hold for 3, 2, 1, and we're just trying to isolate the vagina. Breathe in, release, relax. Breathe out, just your vagina, closing and hold for 3, 2, 1. Breathing out, release, relax. Let's go one more. Sorry, breathing in, release, relax. Breathe out, focusing on our vagina opening and closing that. 3, not clenching our glutes. 2, 1, and release. Good job. Let's have a little bit of a breather. And just a reminder that if you don't have a really strong connection to your pelvic floor at this stage, it is totally normal. It does just come down to intention and repetition. All right, let's go in for the entire pelvic floor. So we're going to focus on our urethra at the front, our vaginal canal, and our rectum or our bum hole. And I want you to focus on squeezing all 3 holes together. But then an extra challenge, we're going to then lift them all up. So squeezing and lifting. So sucking that milkshake up, pulling that blueberry up your vagina, or sometimes I like to think about a string. It just really helps me visually to think about kind of closing each sphincter, and I picture like a string wrapped around all of them, and I kind of tighten that string to close it off, and then I pull on all of those strings upwards. So we're going to take a breath in, release and relax that pelvic floor so the elevator is going down into the basement. As we breathe out, I want you to focus on gathering all 3 of those sphincters. So our urethra, our rectum, and our vagina. They're closing off. We're going to pull them all up and hold for 3, 2, 1, and release. Good job. Making sure when we're contracting that we're not activating those glutes, we're not crunching down into that core. You really want to try and isolate that pelvic floor. Again, if you don't have a really strong contraction at the moment, that's okay. It just takes some time. We're going to breathe in and we're going to release and relax. This is rep number 2. And as we breathe out, focus on closing all 3 of those sphincters. And then we're going to lift up for 3, 2, 1, and release. Good, nice, full release, full length. Good, we're gonna breathe in. Really make sure that pelvic floor travels down to the basement. And as we breathe out, we're closing all 3 of those holes, 1, 2, 3, and lifting the 3, 2, 1, and release. Well done. So we've gone through our breathing and how that can affect the function of our pelvic floor. We've gone through our pelvic floor activation and how we can isolate the different sections of our pelvic floor. As we progress through the program too, we really kind of work on left and right side of pelvic floor as well. Excuse me. I'm such a professional. Next, we're going to go into our TA activation. So how to activate our deep core. What you'll notice is that our multifidus will start to kick in as well, which is what we want because that is a part of our core canister and our stabilizing system. So we're going to lay back down on our side. And once we get this TA contraction down pat, we can work on bringing it all together for the connection breath. So finding that nice pelvis neutral position. Again, we don't want that back squished down. We don't want too much of an arch, just that nice neutral position. And we really want to make sure our body is nice and relaxed. So when we do our TA activation, let's bring our hands onto our hip bones and then in from our hips slightly onto that lower core area just above our pubic bone. So activating our TA, what it should feel like is a little bit of tension and a lift. Again, as a reminder, if you don't quite have a strong core connection at this stage, it is normal and it does just come down to your intention and consistency in practicing building those strong neural connections. Hope you like my singing. All right, Green, let's go. We're going to take a breath in. So we're going to breathe in. We're also going to add that pelvic floor relaxation so you can see how we're really layering on these foundations now. And as we breathe out, what you want to focus on is bringing those hip bones together. Another cue can be belly button to spine, but we're not sucking in, we're just tightening that belly button. Or we can also zip up. So I like to think about, I really visualize a zipper. So as I breathe out, I contract the lower abs, bring those hips together, and then I pull that zipper all the way up because our TA comes down from our pubic bone all the way up here to the top of our ribs. So we really want to focus on getting that zipper, closing ribs, so you can just imagine everything kind of being stitched in here. And I claim it to have a decent connection to my TA. So I can really feel like it's starting to kind of come up into my back here as well, which is a good thing because our TA wraps right around. So we're going to breathe in, release and relax, remembering as we're activating, we're not clenching through the glutes and we're also not coming down into the ribs or popping those ribs down, which is something else that is quite common when women are learning how to activate their deep core, is they'll have a very dominant rectus because they have a weaker lower core. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Now we're going to breathe out. Picture those hips coming together, so you should feel a little bit of tension. Again, we're not lifting up because we're not pushing down. Tension. And then that zipper comes up as we continue to breathe out. And we want to, again, ideally feel that activation happen from lower up into the mid and then to the top of our TA here. Breathing in. Full release and relax that pelvic floor. Let's go again. We're going to breathe out. Let's zip together. Zip up, zip up, zip up. Keep breathing out. Breathe in. Release and relax. Let's go 2 more reps here. Breathing out. hip bones come together, tension in that lower abs, zipper, 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 zipper. So it is about kind of lengthening as we tighten as well. We're not crunching down, just as that reminder. Breathing in, release. Let's go one more rep here. Breathing in, release, relax. Intentionally want you to focus on that pelvic floor relaxation. Start breathing out. Hips comes together. Feel a nice tightness in through the lower abdominals. Focus on that zipper, rising, 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 rising. Hold and release. Well done. Awesome work. So we've got our breath, pelvic floor relaxation and contraction, a TA activation. Now let's put all those pieces together for our connection breath. So our connection breath, connecting that core canister all together, and it's something that is really important in our everyday movements as well as our transition into strength training. So to get started with the connection breath, it's a breath in to the rib cage, relaxing that pelvic floor. As we start breathing out, I want you to think about those 3 sphincters closing, lifting. Now I want you to get that TA activation going as well. So lower TA connects, all the way up, squeezing that pelvic floor as well, and hold, and release. So again, this coordination can take some practice. If you're not quite there yet, that's fine. Just continue practicing the breath, pelvic floor, TA activation, and then bringing it all together. But we are going to do 3 more reps here of our connection breath. So we're going to breathe in, release, relax. As we breathe out, think about those sphincters closing, our pee hole, our vagina, our bum hole, lifting. Keep breathing out. Use that breath, lifting up that core, and release and relax. 2 more reps here. Breathing in, pelvic floor lengthens into the basement. Start breathing out, sphincters lift. Continue to breathe out, zip up the pelvic floor. Release, relax. And last rep here. Breathing in, breathing out. Close those sphincters, lift the pelvic floor. Start activating that lower core. Zip up, zip up, zip up. And release. Good job. Let's just take a couple of breaths here just to really make sure that everything is relaxing. So let's just go back to our diaphragmatic breathing. So breathing in. I want you to feel that pelvic floor relax. So making sure we have that moment to relax the pelvic floor, because it can respond by kind of tightening up. Really important to get that length as well as that contraction for a optimally functioning pelvic floor. Awesome work. Rolling to our side, pushing ourselves up. Going to come into a tabletop connection breath. So tabletop position is on our hands and knees. So the reason that I like this position so much is it can help us really kind of relax that lower core and relax the front of the pelvic floor, as well as get a really nice expansion into our rib cage. So sometimes when we're laying on our back, we can be a little bit restricted with how much we can move our rib cage. Going to come on to all fours. We're just going to do 5 reps here in this tabletop position. So making sure that our shoulder, wrists are underneath our shoulder. We don't want to be too far here or too far over. We do want to make sure that that pelvis is in that nice neutral position. So I'm not tilted or I'm not too rounded, just that nice neutral position. Making sure that we're relaxing our glutes here too. So it can be, easy to kind of engage our glutes to try and help us stabilize. But I really just want you to feel like a little bit of strength in through your shoulders here. So we're going to practice our connection breath in this tabletop position. And as we breathe in, I want you to focus on the breath going into the back of the ribs. And I really want you to focus on relaxing this lower core area as well. Okay, so we're going to breathe in, back of ribs, really feel them expand. Now, if you type through thoracic, it might feel like there's a lot of resistance there. So breathing in, relaxing that belly, relaxing that pelvic floor. And we're going to breathe out. I want you to engage the pelvic floor so I can get a really good interior pelvic floor contraction in this position. And then activate our TA, so really focusing on lifting that belly up, keeping it nice and flat. Breathing out, breathing in, releasing, relaxing. Sometimes I get confused too, guys. Breathing in, rib cage expanding. As we start breathing out, activating our pelvic floor, lifting the pelvic floor up, continuing to breathe out, lifting that core up. Breathe out as much as you can, making sure that we're lifting from the bottom upwards. We're not bringing that rib cage down. Think about as our TA activates, we lengthen. This is rep number 3 we're coming into. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing as we breathe out. Pelvic floor engages, it lifts. Continue to breathe out. Get that really nice TA activation. And release. This position I find is also really good for a great multifidus or that back core activation. Breathing in, release, relax. This is our last rep. As we breathe out, we activate that pelvic floor, close, lift, continue to breathe out, lift up that TA with spin all the way up from our pubic bone to our ribs. Breathing in, releasing and relaxing. Awesome work. We'll just do some deep breaths here and just enjoy being in this position. Good job, mama. Well done. Okay, pat yourself on the back. We are going to go into a little bit more core and pelvic floor work. So we're going to be doing supine TVA hold, and then we're going to go into the TVA hold with a mini breath. That is quite challenging, especially for coordination, the mini breath, because we have to keep that lower core engaged while allowing our upper TA to kind of release in order to get a breath into our ribs. This is really important as we start progressing into our strength training in between reps. So let's just say we have bar on our back, we're coming into a squat, we take a big breath in, we lift everything up to create the support and stabilization that we need. We step out, we do our squat. We're going to need another breath, but we don't want to release everything and let that bar weigh our body down. We want to make sure that we're keeping nice and tight and take that breath in. I actually did a post about the deadlift and how we can manage pressure at the top of our lift, and using the mini breath is a really, really big part of that to help reduce some of the pressure that we build up in our abdominal and pelvic cavity. I could ramble on about all this stuff for ages, but I'm trying to continue getting us through. So where are we up to? Supine TVA hold. So we have been practicing that with the connection breath. So using that sideline technique if we need to. So this is a great one to really help with diastasis or abdominal separation as well. So finding our pelvis neutral position, we're going to do 5 reps here. So we're going to practice that connection breath. So breathing in, our rib cage will expand, our pelvic floor will relax. We're going to breathe out and activate our TA. We're going to hold it for 5 seconds, then we're going to release. Okay, let's go in for rep 1. Let's breathe in, release, relax. We're going to breathe out, pelvic floor lifts. Big breath out, out and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big breath in, really release and relax. So you can take a breath in between each rep if you need to. I find I do. And breathing in, release, relax. So going in for rep 2. Pelvic floor lowers, get that length. Breathing out. Close sphincters, lift. Keep breathing out, lift that core. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Breath, 3 more reps. Building our endurance in through our TA and our deep core. Pelvic floor is really important too. Breathing in, release, relax. Breathing out, coming into rep 3. Pelvic floor activated, lifted. Keep breathing out, TA. 5, 4, hold it. 3, 2, hold that contraction. 1, breathe in. Release and relax. Make sure that pelvic floor fully releases and we relax our entire body. Remembering we're not squeezing the glutes, we're not coming down through our ribs. Breathe in, release, relax. Breathe out. This is rep 4. Pelvic floor, close, lift. Continue to breathe out, zip up that TA. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and breathe in. Go one more. Breathing out. Close sphincters, lift pelvic floor. Continue to breathe out, zip up. Imagine our abs coming together and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. All right, I want you guys to focus on really relaxing here, and I'm going to explain the TVA hold with mini breaths. So like I said, it is quite challenging. If you can't get it straight away, that's all right. It just takes practice. What we're going to do, connection breath, breathe in, release and relax. We're going to breathe out, activate that TA, and from here, I want you to focus on keeping that lower TA engaged, but we're going to breathe into our ribs. Challenging. We're going to do 5 little breaths here. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Making sure that this stays activated. In, releasing, relaxing. We're going to breathe out. Focusing on our sphincters of our pelvic floor, closing, lifting. Continue to breathe out. TA lifts up. We're going to hold that TA contraction, but breathe into our ribs. So 1, breathe out. Breathe in for 2. And if you can, we want to focus on tightening that TA a little bit more each time. Breathe in for 3. 2 more, breathe in. 4, 1 more, breathe in. Breathe out, hold it, hold it, hold it. Release and relax. So what a lot of people I find do when they are doing that mini breath in is they're still kind of breathing into the upper chest. So could look like, get that connection, and they're just kind of breathing up here rather than actually taking a proper breath into our lungs. So it's really important that we are still contracting this, but breathing into the back of our rib cage. Let's go in for rep number 2. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing as we breathe out. Using that connection breath, pelvic floor engages and lifts. TA starts activating. Continue to breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Now we're going to go into our 5 mini breaths. Keep that contraction, breathing just into our ribs for 1. Breathe out, tighten more, and 2. Breathe out, tighten more for 3. Imagine this all coming together. 4. 1 more for 5. Good job, hold it, hold it, hold it. Breathe in, fully release. We're going to go in for 1 more rep, but I just want you to take a couple of breaths here and make sure that our body is fully relaxed and that pelvic floor hasn't got stuck up there. Breathe in, make sure that pelvic floor can lengthen down into the basement. All right, let's go in for one more rep. We're going to breathe into the side of our ribs, back of our ribs. Pelvic floor goes down into the basement. As we breathe out, those sphincters close. We lift. TA, doing up that zip, focusing on this coming together. Coming into our 5 mini breaths, keeping that tension in our lower TA for 1. Tighten. 2. 3. Tighten, tighten, tighten as much of a contraction as you can get. 4. And 1 more for 5. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Hold it, hold it. And release. Good job. So really relaxing here. Some breaths in, making sure that pelvic floor is lengthening. Well done. All right, let's jump into our abdominal session. So using that side lying technique to push ourselves up if we need to. So we're going to come into some cat camels for our spinal mobility, and it's really good at just helping lengthen in through here after we've done a lot of contracting work. We've got some marches, a reverse plank lift, an elbow plank, some glute bridges, fire hydrants, and a Russian twist. So I'm just modifying our program slightly today. We're just going to go through one and we'll kind of do it as a little bit of a circuit. If you find you need to rest, that's okay. If you find that you can't do all the reps or at the pace that I'm going at, that's okay as well. So remembering that it is just about the intention, that is what is going to build those neural pathways. So as I mentioned, you are going to need your Pilates ball. If you don't have a ball, you can use foam roller or a rolled up towel in between our legs to get that contraction. Starting off with our cat camels, going to come into 10 reps here on our hands and knees, making sure that the wrist is under the shoulder. Just starting off in that nice neutral pelvis position. It's just good practice to get into that neutral position initially. We're going to breathe in. I really want you to feel up your tummy, and we're going to tilt that pelvis forward and come into a nice extension of our spine and sink into those shoulders as much as you can. If you're a little bit tight in through that thoracic and in through your shoulder, it might be a bit hard to get that full range, but really try and sink into your shoulders as much as you can. Pelvis forward. We take a nice breath into our belly here. And if we're a little bit tight, might be a bit hard. And if you have had a C-section, you just want to take it a little bit easy with how much pressure you do put through the tummy here. As we breathe out, good opportunity to practice our connection breath here as well. Little by little, vertebrae by vertebrae, we come to this nice big flexion. And as we breathe out, we really want to lift up our TA. Breathe in. Nice and slow, tilt that pelvis forward. Get that nice extension through the spine and sink as much into our shoulders as we can with our mobility. Breathe out for 2 reps. Pushing up. Oh, it's a nice stretch in through the back as well, lifting that TA. Breathing in. Release, relax. Extension. Breathing out. Flexion. Keep moving through these reps. We can pick up the pace a little bit. Four. Five. Nice breath in. Lengthen through those abs into our flexion. 7. 8. 2 more. 9, and last one. and 10. Good job. Coming into our marches. Side lying technique to get on our back in our supine position. Pelvis neutral position. I like to pop my hands on my TA here, even sometimes up on my ribs to make sure that they're staying nice and neutral as well. So we're going to breathe in, release and relax, and we're just going to lift one leg up at a time, keeping it at that 90-degree angle. So breathing in, we've got 10 alternating reps. Release, relax, breathing out. Breathe out, connect the TA first, then lift that leg. So we want to try not to shift. We really want to use this core to help contract and lengthen. So as we lower, we're kind of not releasing it. Eccentric is essentially like lengthening through a contraction. Let's go to the opposite leg, breathing in, breathing out, getting that good TA contraction first, then lifting that leg and lower. Keep breathing out as we lower. Well done, then release. In, out, contract, lift. So if you are a little bit further through the program, you can lengthen that lever so you can bring that leg down further. What that is going to do is place a little bit more load on the core for you. In, contract, lift. Keep that contraction as we lower. 4 more reps here. 1. Good feedback to pop your hand on your tummy too, to make sure that as we're breathing out, we're coming together and we're flat, that we're not pushing that belly out and bread loafing or doming through our midline. Breathing in, release, relax, breathe out, contract, lift that leg. Keep that contraction, keep breathing out as we get that eccentric lowering. In, release and relax. Let's go 2 more reps. Breathing out, activating, lift and lower. 1 more. In, release and relax. Breathe out, lift and lower. Awesome work. We're going to come into our reverse plank lift. Side lying, push up, sit on our bum. Just gonna grab a quick drink actually. All this talking is making me parched. Fingertips facing our bums, legs kind of wherever's comfortable. You might need to do a rep first to find out where's comfy. I really like this movement because it smashes our posterior chain, also in my triceps and my shoulders, which is really important for strength in through our shoulders. Going to breathe in. We've got 10 reps here as well. Haven't done these for ages. They're going to hurt. Breathing in, releasing, relaxing as we breathe out. I first want you to focus on engaging our TA first before we do any part of the movement. Then we're going to squeeze the glutes and lift up so I can really feel my hamstrings there. I can bring my legs in a little bit further to get more glute. And lowering, continue to breathe out. 9 reps, breathe in, release, relax, breathe out, activate, push through, glutes, hamstrings at the top. Oh, lots of pressure through my shoulders. Can be common to push out. We're lifting up in this position, the core, and down. Breathe in, making sure we're fully releasing and lengthening. Breathing out, hold, and down. Breathing in, breathing out, engage, lift. Make sure that we're lifting that TA at the top of the movement too, not pushing that belly out. I can feel my shoulders and my triceps. I trained them yesterday. Breathing in, release, relax. Breathing out, lift and up. Let's go 4 more reps here. If you can, let's pick up the pace a little bit. If you can't, that's okay. Go at your pace. Breathing in, breathing out, activate, lift, control down. Good, so we're keeping tight on that down or eccentric phase as well. Breathing in, breathe out, contract, lift, pushing up using our glutes. Lower, we've got 2 more reps. Breathing in, breathing out, lift. Good job. And down. 1 more. Breathing in and out and lift. Good job. Little rest. Elbow plank. So if you do have something that you can do it on an incline, if not, that's okay. We are doing a 30-second hold, but you can just hold as long as you can if you can't quite make that 30 seconds. I'm going to show you how to get into the plank as well. That cat bomb is still sitting there and I can smell it. Stinky. Okay. So what I like to do to come into my elbow and knees plank, or if you're in your incline, you're going to be up a little bit higher. Start in this position here, a little bit lower. I'm going to take my breath in. I'm going to breathe out, activate my TA. And from there, I'm going to come up into my plank position. So we're going to hold for 30 seconds here. What we want to do is not be soggy in through those shoulder blades, and we don't want to be soggy in through the back here. So as we breathe out, we're activating our TA, which is bringing our pelvis forward. So if our TA is activated, you should have a nice neutral spine. And I'm also pushing up in through my shoulder blades, like when we do the cat camels and we push up into that flexion. Let's hold for another 10 seconds here. 10, 9, 8, 7, keep holding. 6, if you need to rest, that's fine. 5, remember we're lifting up with that core, not pushing out. 3, 2, 1, and release. Awesome work. Ooh. Glute bridge with ball adduction. So grabbing your ball, foam roller, your towel, making sure we're using that side lying technique to help protect our core. Our ball is going to come in between our legs. We've got 10 reps here. I'm going to talk you through the first rep. We're going to breathe in, release, relax. As we start breathing out, we're going to use that connection breath. So core starts engaging. Then I want you to squeeze the ball and then lift up from the glutes. Continue to breathe out. Again, at the top of the lift, still squeezing in, squeezing up, using my core, not pushing out, lifting up and release. So remembering on that down phase, it is the eccentric. So we are contracting as we're lengthening. We're not just letting go. Breathing in for rep 2, breathing out, squeezing, lifting up, hold and squeeze, cores engaged, and keep that contraction as we come down, release. Rep 3, and up, hold at the top, get as much of a contraction as you can, and release. If you need to go to slower pace, that's okay. Rep 4, squeeze and lift and down. Breathing in, breathe out, squeeze, lift, keep holding, release, relax. 5 more to go. And up. 6, and up. 7, squeeze and lift. Keep breathing out. 8, 2 more, 9. Last one. Hold it for 5. Challenge yourselves if you can. 3, 2, 1, and down. Good. Again, making sure that we're fully releasing and relaxing here. So take a few deep breaths. Feel your body relaxed. What is next? Modified fire hydrant. Okay, this is great for external rotation of the hips, which we can be a little bit jammed up in sometimes. I know that I am, especially on my dominant side. It's not fun. And this fire hydrant can actually be quite a challenging exercise because we really have to focus on a lot of stabilization in order to isolate. So what you might find is you want to kind of rock to the side to try and get a little bit of more motion in through this external rotation, but we really want to focus on keeping our body weight really nice and even and not shifting our weight. How we stabilize, we create tension. So we're going to use our connection breath, our core activation to stay as strong as we can in this tabletop position. You're slowly going to take the weight off our working leg, put it onto our stabilizing leg, and then you're going to come into the movement. So we are going to do 10 on each side, and it can be quite difficult if you don't quite have that coordination yet. And again, that's okay. It just takes intention and practice. So we're going to breathe in, making sure we're releasing and relaxing. We're going to breathe out. Activate that TA, slowly shift the weight into the stabilizing leg and come into that external rotation with our working leg. Now, if you can, it's great if we can just do continuous reps for 10 reps. If you find that's a little bit of a struggle, that's okay. You can bring the knee down, breathe in, release, relax, breathe out again, stabilize. Shift that weight slowly onto the stabilizing leg and then use that working leg. So you can do that for each rep if you need to, or every other couple of reps. We can work our way up to be able to do all 10. 7, 8, let's go 2 more. 9, and the last one. Good job. Going to switch over to the other leg. Breathe in as we breathe out. Lifting that TA, slowly shifting the weight onto our stabilizing leg and coming into another 10 reps. 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, if you need to reset between each rep or every other rep, that's okay. Breathe in, breathing out, activating lifting, slowly shifting that weight. I'm going to finish off our 5 reps here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Release and relax, and just take a moment there to really make sure the body is relaxed. Take some deep breaths in. And last one, we've got a Russian twist here. So instead of our supine pile-off press, we're going to do a Russian twist, which is a rotational opposed to a anti-rotational. So we're still kind of working the same movement, muscles and plane, and a little bit of rotation controlled can be really good to help heal any abdominal separation and strengthen the core. So if you can't lean back, if you don't have the strength, that's okay. We can just stay in a really nice upright seated position. Hands are going to come together. We're just going to rotate around to the side as much as your mobility allows you to, and breathing in. And as I breathe in, I'm getting a nice expansion in through that rib cage. We're going to breathe out, activating that TA, bringing it all together, coming to the middle. Breathing in, let's go to the other side. As much rotation, breathing into the rib cage, not into the belly. And as we breathe out, we're going to pull back through. Visualize this closing. Now if you're a little bit more advanced and you have a solid connection, you can try leaning back a little bit more. Let's go to this side again, breathing in. Rotating as much as we can, breathe out. Drawing TA together and in, around. That's 4. 10, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can limit your range if you need to as well. 9, one more, and 10. Well done. And to finish off, we're just going to go back into our supine position or laying on our back using that side laying technique. And we're just going to take a few nice deep breaths here. I really want you to be conscious of your core and your pelvic floor and really making sure that that is now fully relaxed. So as I mentioned, as we kind of work through these, it can be common for the pelvic floor to kind of tighten and then remain in that higher tone or tighter position. So ensuring we get that breath in and fully relax is really important to getting that full range and function of our pelvic floor. So just a few nice deep breaths here. Good job, let's go another 2 breaths. Awesome work. Well done. Using our rolling, pushing technique to get up. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's very exciting and I'm really excited to be able to do these sessions and connect more with my lovely mamas. Now, if you do have any questions, please make sure you reach out and I will see you next week at 11:30 to go through our session. Hope you have a good day. Bye.